Podium isn't set up for old-fashioned people with me who use paper, but anyway. Okay, it is, I think, my 5th year that I speak at the conference. I want to congratulate the organizers because it is a landmark conference on energy, and energy is clearly one of the most important issues of the day. And it's a very exciting issue because every few months there's a new facet to it. So I thank the American Hellenic Chamber of Commerce, VIABILITY, and the supporters from the other side of the Atlantic for once again putting together a fantastic agenda. So let me start. I've spoken almost every year the past 5 years. Every year is a new flavor of the month. Energy security with Russia, pipelines, global warming with floods, fires. Last year was supply chain dependency with China. But every year we've had one stable topic. Increase renewables to meet green energy targets in our fight against climate change. And banks were always there, ready to finance such projects. Now, I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but a topic that is very important for us and hopefully for the discussions today is that we become a victim of our own success on renewables. A high share of renewables without enough flexibility in the operational framework of the electricity market raises volatility and uncertainty of price and supply. It creates significant operational challenges, but it also now threatens the financing not only of renewables, but of batteries, and I would even say transitionary energy sources such as natural gas. In our credit committees, we're having severe discussions and difficulties saying that these projects are bankable if they're standalone. If there's a corporate guarantee, that's fine. But for some reason, there's no corporate guarantee because even the corporate realizes the risks. So let's go into this topic. Cash flows have become too uncertain, especially when we consider the maturities of the projects which go 15, go 20, go 25 years. Who knows what electricity prices will be when they're market determined in 25 years? We pay for these projections, and every month they're completely different. Always something was forgotten. So why has this happened now? Renewables have shifted from being a supplementary to being a more baseload electricity source. In Greece, renewables form 43% of production, up from 24% in 2019. Such there's a higher need to balance a system whose output is largely stochastic, wind, sunlight, and it's dispersed among many small producers without good connectivity. Second, over the past few years, we've had the abolition of feed-in tariffs that guarantee the price. Now we see price swings from negative prices to over 200 million per megawatt, and intraday, 100 euros is common. 100 euros per megawatt. We have large periods of negative prices, and we have production curtailments. In Greece, currently 8 to 9% of annual production is curtailed, potential production is curtailed. Third, low share of off-market contracts, PPAs. When fixed feed-in tariffs were abolished, everyone thought, great, we'll have PPAs, private sector will provide the solution by having long-term contracts between producers and suppliers. It hasn't occurred. The problem will increase because the target of Greece is to increase renewables to 75% of production by 2030. Others in the room will understand what happened in Spain in April better than I, but renewables were part of the problem combined with how you put on reserve electricity and connectivity issues. But it is an example of what can happen if we don't change how the system works. Fortunately, all stakeholders, I think, realize the problem and are focusing on solutions. Now, as a banker, I will dare try to summarize some of the potential solutions. We have become experts at NBG on electricity and all its facets. So let's see what potential solutions would entail. Some, I think you will know well and agree, others more controversial. Upgrade the grid. Clearly, connectivity is clear, necessary. For us in Greece, we can only export about 5% of production versus a target of 15%. And the domestic grid is divided into many small regions. Clearly, increasing national grid capacity and stronger interconnectivity will increase demand and smooth out supply. Second group of measures, increase electricity demand to meet the excess supply provided by renewables. Electricity demand is far below the national plan. It is 26% of energy versus goals of 24 and 26% in 23 versus goals of 34% in 25 and 37% in 2030. The main reason is the electrification of transport and of heating. Third category, unsurprising, storage. Strong investments are clearly needed in storage when you have lots of renewables. Some steps have been made, but they're not sufficient. It has been belatedly recognized that batteries, standalone batteries, require a fixed payment called a standby payment. The fact that the investor decides to have a battery there, taking electricity and release it when it's necessary, there has to be a standby payment. So this is something that's being considered in many countries, and it will provide a stable source of cash flow and financing for the investor, and not to rely only on the arbitrage between producer prices and consumer prices, where, as we said, who knows what there will be in 10 years, 15, 20 years' time. Greece has started to put in such a scheme. However, it only targets a small amount of storage, 0.8 giga, while 4.7 giga are unsubsidized. And unfortunately, we think that the most recent estimates are that we will need 8 giga by 2030. So there's a move in Europe and there's a move in Greece. More needs to be done on this front. Batteries, I'll just add also faster permits. Another thing to make something bankable is you know that there's a permit to make it, to have the battery. Very slow on permits. Only about 0.5 giga have been provided. That needs to be sped up. Fourth category, measures to improve short-term demand-supply imbalances. In Greece, we use rule of thumb for what reserve will be the next day. In other countries, there are far more sophisticated probabilistic models which tell you how much you will need, and that increases efficiency. Smart meters, also very common in Europe, allows you to intraday decide how much electricity to use, pick the time when it's cheap, stop when it's expensive. Also very, very important. Penetration is 90% in most of European countries. In Greece, we just started. Fifth category, more controversial, insurance. I mentioned the standby tariff for batteries. Governments are finally realizing that the elimination of feed-in tariffs was too hasty, and they've designed something that is called contract for difference, CCDs. It is a more efficient fixed-in tariff. It doesn't give the upside to the producer, but it guarantees a price. These are becoming more and more common, and I think this will provide an important part to the solution. It requires government spending, which is always difficult. All this is also leading to difficulty in financing classic natural gas CCGTs, because as you increase renewable usage, there's be less and less need to produce from natural gas. So why would anyone want to do a CCGT, which is necessary in times of need, be there to provide the reserve? So even now, even for CCGT, there's a consideration to provide a standby payment. Again, controversial, provide government money for standby facilities for CCGT. But it is something that needs to be discussed and decided upon. Why is all this important? In Greece, until 2030, the estimates are that 30 billion will be needed just for the grid and production capacity, ignoring home upgrades, etc. 30 billion. Who's going to provide that financing? Under what terms? As banks and as NBG, who is the Bank of Energy for Greece, these are the issues we're raising. They need to be discussed. Some are controversial, requires government intervention, but this is an imperfect market. It is not a market where market forces are going to lead to the solution we need, especially if we want clean energy in the time frame that we discussed. So it's too important an issue. We need to change the operational model. I'm not going to tell you that what I said is the perfect answer. You are the experts here today. Hopefully today you will move forward in this discussion. I'm sure it'll be something that will take up all our time for the next many years. We as banks want one thing. We want projects to be bankable. Not a sure thing, we take risk, but up to a certain extent. And with that, I close. Thank you very much.